Hi guys, so I wanted to do a video on the mental health benefit of helping others, which is a surprisingly well documented thing, and also it's talked about more extensively by Johann Hari in his book Lost Connections, which is kind of what opened my mind up to it. And yeah, there's a surprising amount of research on it. Also, I know it's really dark, but it's just I'm going to bed soon, so I don't want to turn the light on. I'm aware this looks kind of spooky. So a study in 2008 of adults in the USA across basically the full spectrum of socio-economic backgrounds, presumably apart from mega rich billionaire elites, found that those who took part in volunteer work had significantly better mental health than those who didn't, and that this was irrespective of their social status. In those who didn't volunteer, social status was a significant predictor of happiness levels and self-esteem. So basically, in people who didn't volunteer, social status was more of an important determining factor for their happiness. So people who did volunteer, their social status wasn't as relevant to their level of happiness, which could be interpreted in a number of ways. So maybe that means because they were focused in a different way, their self-worth and value wasn't coming from how much money they earn or how well they're doing and what their job is, but rather what they're contributing to other people's lives and the difference they're able to make for other people. It's not clear. Another study found that volunteering improves mental well-being. Even if it's self-oriented, like for example, if you're just doing it just to get social activity or validation or something, or to keep busy, it still improves your mental well-being, but more so, it improves your well-being, your mental well-being more so on paper if you're doing it for the stated purpose of helping others. Then we get into a kind of chicken and egg argument that we get into with a lot of this type of data, where it's like, well, maybe people are happier, so they're therefore more likely to volunteer. And that is possible in some instances, but some studies have been done to try and examine this further. So a 2021 study of UK citizens looked at the subjective well-being of participants to see if volunteering actually led to a change in happiness, as opposed to just being generally associated with a higher statistical likelihood of being happy in the first place. And they found that volunteering did actually increase happiness, but also that happy people are generally just more likely to volunteer. So I guess both things are true, but yeah, it appears that volunteering in itself and doing things to help others does actually have a significantly positive benefit on people. And I mean, you don't just have to look at research to see this, obviously. Like, not everything has to be looked at in that way, and it's probably in some ways probably easier to just cast your mind to examples from your own life, times when you've helped people with things, and consider how it's made you feel, or to try it out for yourself and see if you're stuck in a depression and you can't get out and you feel you're in a negative place mentally, and nothing you do for yourself is making yourself happy. Maybe there's nothing you can do for yourself that will make you happy, but maybe focusing on somebody else's problems or trying to contribute something useful to somebody else's life will take you away from your own feelings enough to give you a bit of a break or some distance, or just to make you feel better about yourself and to have better self-esteem. I experienced this. I was a support worker for a while, and for people with learning difficulties and stuff like that, quite severe learning difficulties, and the job didn't pay very well, and it doesn't afford you any level of social status or benefits particularly. It was basically minimum wage, but I remember I felt a lot more confident in myself at that time, and I really enjoyed the component of the job that involved actually helping people and making a difference in their lives. And a lot of my sort of shame and embarrassment about not being successful in life and not having much money and not feeling good enough, it kind of disappeared, and some of that might have been because I was quite busy and distracted, but I also just felt like quite a lot of pride in what I was doing, and it wasn't a like a boastful form of pride, because it's not something that people are like particularly impressed by, but it was just personal, a feeling of personal pride and satisfaction. And I think doing good things and looking out for other people can fulfill a part of us that maybe we sometimes forget even exists, like because we're not activating it normally. And when we're sitting around like watching movies or playing games or trying to just like make money or do things to give ourselves some sort of pleasure, like we're probably forgetting that there's more like kind of rich, fulfilling kind of happiness you can get from activities that involve more like connection with your fellow humans, yeah, so I think personally it's a really good thing to try out and just like give it a go if you're not feeling very good, yeah, I don't know, like it's not always easy or straightforward. Even volunteering is surprisingly difficult, like depending on where you live. I remember in the past when I looked for volunteering roles, it was like kind of hard to find anything, and some of them, the problem is they're quite indirect. Like you can work at a charity shop, and that is a good thing to do, but you don't generally, if you're working in a charity shop, you don't really see the people that you're helping, you're just working in a shop, and like, yeah, you can intellectualize that and understand that you're doing a good deed. Well, I don't understand how charity shops make any money. They sell everything so cheaply. That whole system is kind of bizarre to me. I don't really understand it. It's a great thing to do, obviously, like I'm not knocking it, but yeah, I don't know. It's quite hard to find volunteering jobs where you're working directly with people or with animals. I mean, the animal ones, forget about it. They're fucking impossible. Like those are like, that's like trying to get a regular job. It's harder even than, yeah. Any job or volunteering role where you work with animals, it's like you'll never get to touch the animals. You'll never go anywhere near them unless you're like a vet, like you're trained to be a vet, but you're out of work currently. Maybe you can volunteer and like, fucking work at the rescue or whatever. But generally they'll be like, oh yeah, we've got some work for you, like picking up rubbish in the car park outside the shelter. Like, oh yeah, I guess that sort of helps the dogs, doesn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. So you might have to get creative and like find something. I don't know. Yeah, just get creative to try and like find something, if that is something you're interested in doing, like trying to help people or give something back or whatever. But I think it's worth it. I don't know. It's not something that comes naturally to like want to do necessarily when you're living your own life and minding your own business. It's not something that you think like, oh yeah, that sounds great, like helping somebody else. But you'd be surprised. And of course it's good for the other person, shouldn't be framed in too much of a selfish light. It is also just really good for whoever you're helping, ideally. So yeah, good luck if you decide to pursue that particular path. And let me know what your experiences have been as well, if you've had any in the comments or whatever.